Hi, and welcome to the SaVeg Podcast.
I'm Rose, also known as Cheap Lazy Vegan on YouTube.
And I'm Daniel, one of your favorite guest stars on Cheap Lazy Vegan's YouTube channel.
We're two friends who love to talk about the latest trending topics.
So get comfortable and join us while we give our savage take on just about everything.
You are currently listening to the previous episode of this podcast, but if you would like to listen to this week's episode and get some exclusive content, go over to patreon.com/the SaVeg Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of the SaVeg Podcast.
A super special episode because those of you that are watching the video right now, you can see that it's not just me and Rose on the camera right now. Who is joining us here on this very special episode, Rose?
It would be my very longtime friend and roommate, my friend Angela. Would you like to say hello, Angela?
Hi, world. The SaVeg Podcast audience. I'm your favorite friend. Actually,
Yes.
You guys are second favorite friend. Anyways.
These two like to compete for my love and affection, which, you know, understandable.
Yeah.
It's
very true.
always.
It's very true.
Angela is, so we've been friends since high school. And do you want to give a little introduction of what you do, what your podcast? Angela also has a podcast, so we're going to dig deep into that. So she's going to tell us a little bit about herself.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. So my name is Angela Kim. Again, I am Rose's friend, Daniel's friend, also her roommate. I do accounting full-time, you know, the typical Asian job. Is that bad to say?
No, it's not bad. Nothing is bad to say on
Am I
this
allowed to
podcast.
swear on this podcast?
Oh, have you heard
Have you met us?
speak?
That's true.
Have you met me?
You know who I am. Anyways, I'm also the host of my own podcast. It's called The Why Moments, and I interview people all around the world regarding their lowest turning points in life. So it's all about mental health, which is very suitable for this episode today. We're going to get very deep and personal here today, I think.
I don't know if I'm
Look
ready.
at Daniel's face. I don't think Daniel's ready for this.
Yeah, I don't think we're ready, but that's okay. So yeah, I do that part-time just for fun. I haven't been really active on my podcast lately just because it's a busy season at work right now and I've just been procrastinating. But yeah, that's just...
Yeah, I'm still waiting for it. So I did an episode with Angela about 5 years ago. Still waiting for my episode to go live. So one day, guys, if you follow her podcast on whatever podcast platform, then maybe one day in the next 5 years, you will listen to my episode. This is a little call out.
Oh
Yes.
gosh, the video
The
editing
shade.
process is just,
It's because we did it on a video and you're not used to the
I'm
video.
not used to
Yeah.
it, but
Yes.
it'll
And
be out soon, guys.
I feel your pain, Angela, because you know I can tell you right now the video editing process it does take time, right? So
it's no joke.
Do you guys appreciate what I do for a living?
No.
I feel like it's different because we have to
Excuse me.
extract the audio separately and then
Excuse
like
me.
the video separately.
Thank
and
you.
It's
Excuse me.
different.
If I edited the podcast, it would take me much shorter time because I am a professional.
That's true.
Yes.
But no, that is not an offer for me to edit the podcast.
I was gonna say, Rose. Okay, if you're offering.
Ain't nobody got time, okay? SaVeg Podcast cannot afford Cheap Lazy Vegan services. Thank you.
You're too
Savage.
expensive at this point in time.
So
But, yeah.
today we thought, first of all, we wanted to discuss a trending topic because that is what we are, what we do on this podcast. But it is quite related to kind of like the topic of discussion, which is mental health.
Yes.
So the trending topic at this moment, guys, is the breaking news
Oh God.
of Princess. Is she a princess? Yes.
Yes.
Princess Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. What the hell is his
Are they
last
still
name?
Prince and Princess?
I
though?
think they're going to be, according to that interview that we watched yesterday,
Yeah.
it seems like they might lose their titles.
Like they're getting
I
stripped
don't
of
think
their
they're
titles.
actually calling them Prince and Princess. And actually, don't quote me. I don't know.
They are currently, but I think they're going to be stripped of their titles, I think, but I'm not sure.
Can you guys?
So
can,
uh-huh.
I was gonna say, can you guys like give me the breakdown of like
We
what
will.
happened? Because I actually haven't
Oh
seen
shit, Daniel.
Oh, because you haven't watched it.
Yeah.
Heard it.
So we watched it yesterday, and well, tell us what you think of it. Like, give us the breakdown, Angela, since you're the guest here.
it. Yeah.
Oh God.
Or is that a difficult task?
That is a very difficult
Okay.
task. But I don't know. Personally, I thought, well, everyone was freaking out about it. So I was like, Rose, we need to like watch this and what is going on? And I knew that they were going to share their story, but I didn't think how deep they were going to get. Yeah. Like it was pretty intense. And
did they spill the tea?
A bit of the tea. They were still like, they were still professional
a little bit
enough.
Reserved, but like they didn't mention names or anything like that. But Megan did share her story about how she was suicidal.
Oh God!
That was the breaking news.
Yeah, and like how, you know, like on camera she's smiling and everyone thought, you know, she was doing fine, but behind the scenes, like she was trying to get support from the family and just no one was really helping her out and telling her to just kind of suck it up, pretty much, being like, this is just how it is. And so like I'm not surprised by that, like I'm really not. But I'm just surprised by the fact that like she actually did like mention that. But I think right now mental health is a huge topic, not just like with the royal family and all that, but I feel like with everyone because of COVID and like, you know, everyone's talking about it. So maybe she just felt she
felt more comfortable maybe.
True. I was gonna say, do you think even before COVID, because like I feel like COVID has like exacerbated, I don't know if that's the right word, but even prior
you used the right word, Daniel. I'm so proud of you.
So happy. One time, guys, let's note that for the podcast one time. But like Angela, like do you think before COVID that because like there's been a trend of increased awareness around mental health, like is that something that like, you know, people are feeling more open to talk about it overall? And obviously with the COVID it's become more, but like even prior to that?
Yeah, even prior to that, even just with the company that I work at one of the big 4 accounting firms, and we decided to create this like mental health committee, and like no one in the big 4 firms has ever mentioned that or has ever done that. So even before COVID, we started just talking about it a little bit more. And I think like the stigma between like men needing to just kind of hush hush and not say anything about mental health, like that's kind of breaking over time. Like I've just seen a huge
shift
and a difference between like the male population in general. So
do you still think though, like, because I always like, I do agree, I think there's been like this like kind of, especially during COVID, there's been this like real shift of kind of being more aware and talking about mental health because of people are just seeing how the importance of it really is, you know. But I think like part of the problem with especially men, I'm not saying that men are, you know, not as open as women, but quite often with like mental health and stuff, there's like this stigma that as a man, if you express your feelings, it's in some way demasculine, you know, like it's not something that, you know, it makes you less of a man to do that. And I feel like that's still, I think it's getting better, but I think that's still kind of like prevalent. Yeah,
it's true. I feel like the stigma is still there for men, but I think it's definitely getting better. But I mean, I know for a fact, like personally, men in my life, they still kind of hesitate to talk about mental health and like in general. But I do see like social media, for an example, I do see a trend. Maybe it's like the accounts that I follow now or the people that I connect with. So like that could be
Are they men or are they women?
They're men. Like even just like the community that I'm involved in. Like I see more men joining the sessions. I'm talking about so I don't know. Personally, I feel like it's getting better, but obviously, there's still that big stigma.
Stigma, yes.
Stigma.
Yeah.
I think it's like also, it's not necessarily just stigma, but I think it's like you're not used to talking, like men especially are not used to talking about feelings. So it's not necessarily that they're like, oh my God, if I talk about this, people are going to judge me. It's more like they just don't feel comfortable just saying stuff.
That's true.
You know? Like it's not even just them thinking, oh my God, they're going to judge me. Like they're just like, that's a muscle that's not, exactly. That's a muscle that's not trained, you know?
That's actually a really good point, because if you think about it, it's like something that you've never done before. It's like riding a bike or doing, you know, at first you're going to be a bit like nervous, hesitant, all of this stuff. And as you start to open up more, I think, you know, you can start that kind of mental health awareness journey, I guess. I mean, even myself, like I would say I'm not the most open with a lot of stuff. Like I think I still have a long way. I could definitely take a page out of your book, Angela, to be more kind of like open and, you know, with my own mental health and stuff. I think it's something that, you know, it's not an easy thing to do, you know? So.
But I think because of the increased awareness right now, people are, I think, getting more curious. And I think that really starts, and that's where the shift is. So like men in my life, just like friends, like male friends, I have never thought that they would have, you know, said anything about mental health. And then they all of a sudden just start asking me like, what do you do for meditation? Like they're getting curious, right? Which before, if like that awareness wasn't there, then like, you know, they wouldn't even have thought about bringing that up as a question. Right. So so that like mental health was huge in that interview, and also the racism.
Oh God, did you hear about this, Daniel?
No, I mean, I literally have just seen the like kind of stuff, like everyone's like shocked about it, but I haven't actually like looked at it or read any.
The big takeaways is that, first of all, so Megan kind of like opened up about how she was feeling suicidal because I feel like anyone that goes into that family, if you're like not used to it, you would probably feel suffocated.
Oh, 100%.
So, she was feeling suffocated, but also it's like the tabloids that were like, the British tabloids are terrible, right? Like we were seeing the same thing that was happening to Princess Diana, but to Meghan, because she was also the outsider. She was like, you know, just a different person than they're used to. So British tabloids were saying a lot of racist shit, a lot of stuff, like lying about things. And then I guess the problem was that nobody in this like royal institution was defending her. So instead of like, because I guess one of the things that they mentioned, I think, is that one of the things that Harry mentioned, I'm sure he knows a lot about this because he was born into this, but he said that like the royal family and the press have some kind of like a weird relationship where, you know, if they don't, like if the royal family says something to the press, then like against the press, then the press will use that against them, and it's just going to cause like some kind of mayhem. So that's why they don't say anything, to protect the institution, which is the royal family. Anyways, so Meghan was like feeling probably like alone and like depressed and like wanting to, you know, commit suicide or whatnot. And then so she went to the institution and she said, I need help. Like I'm having suicidal thoughts, which like we discussed, that's a hard thing to say.
100%.
Yes. But then they were like, well, you know, it's going to make us look bad, because if you go to like some kind of, you know, if you get mental health help, then they're going to think, you know, it's just so like old school minded, right? So they're living in their own little old school bubble. So anyways, so that was one of the things that was discussed. But the other thing that was discussed was that because Meghan is like mixed race, they were apparently there was like some talk behind the scenes. They didn't go into detail, but there was some talk about how the baby, that the first child that they were pregnant with, they were concerned that he would be like too dark.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And he's so pale.
Well,
this is before.
He wasn't born yet.
I know.
Yeah.
Now they're probably like, oh God.
They're probably like, we caused trauma for nothing. But like, that's crazy.
So you could see how in that circumstance, like obviously anybody would feel so like isolated. And the fact that you're going to, I guess, the institution, as they called it in this interview, I guess it would be the kind of company or whatever that manages the royal family. I guess it's like probably
it's like
there's
a whole institution. Apparently.
Oh yeah. Well, if you think about the kind of money that we're talking about here, like that the royal family has, earns, everything else, like it would be a company in itself, right? So I think that to have this like institution that kind of manages their, I guess, relationships and everything else, like with the press, like the fact that she went to them and asked for help and was like crying out for help and is like, I need help with this situation, and no one was helping her. Like, that's so bad.
I think
Sounds
that's
familiar.
so messed up, because what are they going to do if she actually ends up committing suicide?
Oh, God.
Let's say she like wrote a letter, like a last, what do you call that?
Like a suicide note?
Like suicide note.
Yeah.
Let's say like she wrote one of those and she actually like killed herself. Like that would have been 100 times.
Well, they can probably cover it up.
Oh God.
This is
if they're married to the press, they can probably cover it up.
Oh,
this is why people don't trust the royal family, which is why it's shocking that, and you just watched Princess Diana's documentary.
Right
She's currently watching. What is it called again? Through Her Eyes? No.
In Her Words or something?
Oh, In Her Words. Okay.
Was it like that? Was it Diana in Her Words or something?
Yeah, I think so. And
so sad.
It's well, it's like the same thing happening again because Princess Diana also, I don't know if you got to that part, but she also had some like a lot of mental health issues.
Yes.
And she had like postpartum depression. And she was also very open. She's very similar to like Meghan, and you know, like they're very similar. And so Princess Diana opened up about how she had postpartum depression, and she was like, I don't know, she had a lot of she was bulimic for years.
Yeah.
And then they just like hush, you know, called her kind of like unstable. Like it was just.
And like Meghan mentioned a good point, or Meghan and Harry, they both said they don't want to live the same past because they know what happened. Like Harry knows what happened to his mom, so it's like he's seeing this whole thing go down the same way, and he's just like, okay, he needs to make a difference. Like there needs to be a change. And like the saddest part for me throughout that interview was how Meghan was so hesitant to like tell Harry about what was going on, because I think she kind of hid her like depression, of how she actually felt, like her depression and like suicidal thoughts. And I think she hid that for a while before she like actually went to Harry and being like, hey, like this is how I'm feeling. And I think the reason that she said was he's already taking on so much in the world, like the world is already like so heavy on his shoulders. Like she didn't want that to be a burden, and like to not be able to tell your significant other about your like mental struggles. And I think I like just that was so sad for me, is because I think I also like personally struggle with like me being open to like a partner where it's like if he hasn't dealt with anxiety before, like this person's not gonna understand, and they can't relate to how I actually feel or felt, right? So like it's tough, and
it can be a hard bridge to cross with your partner, or like you know your significant others, just to like be, even though they're like, you know, you're with them and everything else, it's hard to sometimes open up to that level, especially if they don't have experience, or you know, you have concerns that they're not going to be able to you know understand. But I think you know, by starting to talk about that and breaking down those walls, it's like a really good way to like hopefully reconnect with your partner, because it looks like, I mean, from what I've seen, and I could be wrong, because again I didn't see this interview, but it seems like Harry and Meghan are like closer than ever. Do you know what I mean? Like it seems like this whole experience, and you know, I'm not gonna lie, guys. Like when I was back, because I was in the UK when the whole wedding went down and everything, right? And
with those two,
with
Harry, okay.
Yes. So there was massive parties, and I actually went to a viewing party. To
watch the wedding?
Yes.
Of course you did.
So
British people are so weird about this royal family, dude.
I know.
They need to chill. They need to fucking dismantle this goddamn royal family.
We will get into that.
I don't know if it'll happen, because do you think, I don't know, Daniel, what do you think? Do you think it'll happen?
I don't think it will happen.
No, but I want to hear about this viewing party. Tell us about the viewing party.
Okay, so basically one of my friends from work was like organizing this, like, well, it wasn't her organizing it, but she was like, there's this really fun viewing party for the wedding. It's bottomless brunch.
That's why you went.
Yes.
Yeah. So
for those of you that don't know what bottomless brunch is, it's basically when you go for brunch and then they give you bottomless glasses of prosecco. Is that correct, Daniel?
But this one was really cool, because this one you could also select, I think, 2 or 3 different cocktails as well.
Oh, very nice.
So, and then what happened was, it was in this like it was a very quirky space. Like in a normal time of going here, you'd be like, this is a really cool restaurant. But because of the way that it was like laid out, it was like we could barely see the TV where the wedding was playing. So we were like in this like little corner, and we had to like kind of move our heads up around to kind of like see. And so I can't remember what happened. I think my friend complained or something, and then afterwards they after the bottomless brunch had ended, they let us continue like with like another hour of bottomless brunch for free or something. It was kind of crazy. But anyway, the point of the story was, when I watched the wedding, you know, I felt like that relationship, and again, it's not my place to comment or, you know, like think about that, but quite often, you know, like with celebrity relationships and stuff, you kind of think to yourself, like, is this just a fad? Like, what's happening? Like, you know, is this real? You know what I mean? And I felt like even after they got married, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is, you know, who knows if this one's going to last, you know? Being the, you know, skeptic that I am, I guess, of relationships.
Oh God, talking to 2 avoidance here.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So true. We won't get into this.
But yeah, and then the fact that like seeing this and seeing, you know, the kind of steps that they've taken together, I think that just like reinforces to everyone that actually like they're, you know, a pretty special couple, I think, you know, because they've been through a lot together. And, you know, for Harry as well to like walk away from his family essentially, I don't really understand did they go into detail about like how that process worked or what happened, because I don't fully understand what.
It's like kind of complicated.
It is kind of complicated.
But basically they said initially what happened was, because I think the rumor was that they just kind of decided to quit being part of the royal family, because you know how they made an announcement, I think it was earlier this year, where they said they were stepping down from being senior members of the royal family, and then everyone was like, oh my god, and they like freaked out and they thought like they were just like betraying the queen or whatever the fuck, some dumb shit, you know. and then but then it turns out that they left. Well, they decided to like step down from the senior positions, which means they would still technically, like, if you're not a senior member, you're still like a member of the royal family, and you can still get like, you know, you can still do the engagements or whatever the hell they do, right? Yeah. So stupid. Anyways, they can still do it. That's why they moved to Canada, because they were like, okay, Canada's still part of the Commonwealth. They can still do like, you know, some work in Canada. And then I guess what happened was, I think they were pissed. I mean, I don't know the full details, but then they kind of went into it. They said that basically the royal family decided to take away their security. So, which is like a very big deal for somebody like, you know, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Like, they can't have no security, right? Like, so they kind of like freaked out, and then they moved to California into like some like their friend's house. They had to like basically kind of go into hiding because they were afraid that people knew where they lived, and they didn't have security. So that's another part of the drama.
Oh my God.
Okay. So yeah, basically there's a lot of drama. Okay, a lot of drama. I'm sure there's a lot more that goes on that they didn't say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bit crazy. And then so basically their initial plan was to still be part of the royal family, but be like, you know, less involved, like less of the, you know, big deal, right? They don't want like as much press and as much, you know, attention. But then because this happened, I think they like kind of fell apart. I don't know. Sounds like he's not speaking to, you know, his family really much, which is kind of sad.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Because like no matter what happens,
they're fucking toxic, dude.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think we've talked about this in this podcast many times before, but like, I don't know, myself personally, and I'm British, I'm from the UK. I'm like, the arguments for the royal family, they just don't make sense for me like anymore. Like, you know, I think they had a time and a place back in the day, and even then the royal family was quite fucked up, and it was like horrible, like what happened with society. You know, you had this king that was like divine right from God, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of crazy. And then you basically had these lords and ladies that were like appointed in different areas that were like the king's friends or whatever, and they were just like the wealthy, and then everyone else was fucking poor and like starving. So I just think, you know, maybe it had its time and its place, and like now I'm just like, you know, the UK is a democracy, like it's part of the, you know, I just don't understand the function of the royal family anymore. And people say, oh, you know, it's because they do a lot of like work, like they go and do humanitarian things and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know, that's great. They don't have to make, you know, millions and millions of dollars to do that. It doesn't have to be, you know. And then another argument's like, oh, you know, well, they bring so much tourism into the country, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, people are still going to visit. Like, look at all those countries that don't have kings and queens, but still have the historic buildings, like the church, like the castles and things like that. People still go there and visit that shit. Like, you don't have to.
I know, it's so stupid.
And actually, with Buckingham Palace and places like that where the royal family lives, like, I think you might get more tourism because the royal family would no longer be there, and you could go inside and they could do tours.
I know. But then how do you break that down?
Exactly.
Can you? Is that possible? Are people going to protest? I think they need to, like, there needs to be a revolution.
Yeah. It's not happening anytime soon.
No, it's because it's like, it's so entrenched in society, and part of the complication,
and they have so much money.
Exactly. They have so much money and wealth. And the reason they are so wealthy is a lot of it has to do with assets, right? Like, it's not necessarily just taxpayers' dollars. Like, they do get some money from tax, I believe. Not that much, actually. But, like, a big portion of the royal family's wealth is assets, right? It's land ownership. It's, like, whatever, all across the UK, maybe internationally as well, that is, like, crown land that they're earning money off of. So then the question would be like, okay, well, where does, you know, if we were to break down the royal family, where do all their assets go? How do you strip someone of their assets? You know, like,
they can still have their assets, but it's like, I don't know. What makes them the royal family then? They still get paid tax. They take some of the tax. Like,
Yeah,
anyway, it's complicated.
Exactly. It gets really. I remember. I was like actually looking into this one day. I was like, how does the queen fucking get paid? I would like to know. Like, does she go into Barclays and has her little bank account? In her Barclays card. Like, how does it work?
She's probably never like held a bank card in her life.
I know this is true, but I was like, how does it? But like, even how does it work? Like, imagine like Harry and oh my God, what's the other? Is it William?
William. Yes, William.
Imagine growing up and being like, okay, here's your allowance, boys. Like, where does that money come from? Like, it's so like weird,
I know.
But I remember looking once, and it was like breaking down the queen's like salary or something, and it's a lot. Like, it is a lot. I think it was like I can't remember. I think it was like
she has a salary.
Yeah.
Right.
And part of it was tax dollars. I don't think it was a big part, but it definitely was. So they do get paid because she's like a figurehead of the state, I guess, or like, and then the rest of it, I think, is just, investments, is assets, is property, like all of that kind of stuff. So,
oh my God. Yeah. Well, now I think after this interview, a lot of people are like turning on the royal family.
Yeah.
But then that's another thing that I find interesting is like, a lot of people are like, I've seen some TikToks. Fuck my life today. I spent so much time on TikTok. God damn it.
Angela, are you a big fan of the TikTok? Are you on the TikToks?
Oh gosh, I am on the TikToks. Yes, but I don't get the same kind of content that Rose gets.
I always send Angela my the TikToks that I get.
She gets like the interesting ones. I just get like dogs and relationships, and what else do I get? Like health and like health related.
But it's probably that's what maybe like you've been looking at, so like that's maybe why in your feed,
for
sure. Because I don't. Well, I'm a grandpa at these things, so like I did download TikTok and I was like going through it. And I just kind of got.
Did?
Yeah, I have it on my phone. Believe it or not.
Wow. Are you following the SaVeg Podcast on TikTok, Daniel?
I don't think I'm following anyone.
Oh my God.
So you're the one that's managing SaVeg Podcast.
Yes. I mean, I don't trust Daniel to manage the SaVeg Podcast, okay?
Oh, God damn.
So Daniel just edits.
Yes. Well, he does our Instagram mostly.
Aww.
Yeah. And edits and,
And does our very interesting thumbnails for our YouTube videos, which I always...
Rose hates.
She
hates my thumbnails. Like literally,
Daniel, I'm sorry. I'm a YouTuber. I just can't.
I know.
I look at it. It looks like
it's a partnership. Okay, just gotta accept.
Yes, that's why I'm giving you honest feedback.
Well,
I've switched it up again. They're different now. The thumbnails.
So. I was telling Daniel, I was like. And like I bit my tongue on this for a long time, just to let you know. Okay, I was like, hey, one criticism at a time. Okay, so the last time I was like, Daniel, why is it that and I'm very careful with my wording. Okay, I was like, why is it that for the thumbnails don't match the episode? So like for our thumbnails, what he does is he'll take like a picture of us like doing the podcast and then like some text and some other pictures and then he always uses pictures from a different episode. Like my outfit will be different, so like I'll be wearing a gray shirt in the video, but then like it'll be from like 2 episodes ago, a picture. And I'm like, Daniel.
Okay, Daniel, that's bad.
Right? Thank you. I'm like, Daniel, why is it that you don't choose the pictures from the actual episode? And he's like, oh, well, I didn't think it'd be a big deal, but and I'm like, if you don't mind.
If it is a big deal, which clearly it is, Angela, this is something that keeps Rose awake at night.
Yeah.
So
yes.
How's your mental health, Daniel?
It impacts her mental health.
The mental health. Oh no, but what I was gonna say about the royal family, and it's on TikTok, and people are like talking about it. But I do feel like now it's kind of like reversing, and now like there's a lot of like people are now like really going after like the royal family and just like talking so much shit. And I'm like, okay, I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's like you're like kind of 2 wrongs don't make a right kind of situation, Yeah. I feel like people are like full on attacking like Prince Charles. That's the father, right?
Yeah.
Prince Charles. I get it. Like he's probably a pretty shitty person, but also like
exactly.
Do you want to be bullying someone? Like you don't actually know the full story, right?
I feel
what
exactly.
What are they doing?
Yeah,
I don't just saying like so much shit, like being like, oh, like, and saying a lot of shit about Prince William as well. We don't know his involvement. Saying like, oh, like this dude, like I saw this TikTok where it was like they were comparing Prince Harry and Prince William, and like showing like Prince Harry being like this strong, like tough man doing like all kinds of like, I don't know, like ultra marathon shit, I don't know, and then like Prince William was like, just kind of showing Prince William as like a weak person, and then Prince Harry as like a strong like man person. And I'm like, and then all the comments are just like saying a lot of shit about Prince William. I'm like, I mean, they're probably not reading the comments, but at the same time, it's like, you're kind of like
hearing just one side of the story a little bit. Like
not one side of but that too, but also you're kind of doing what you say you're against by also attacking and, you know, completely dismantling somebody else. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's like they took what Meghan said and now they're doing it to another person.
Exactly.
Right.
When you don't know the truth.
Exactly. And like Angela was saying, it's like they don't know the other side of the story either, right? Like there's, you know, we don't know that. And yeah, that's why I think like I just feel like people are very quick to jump on this like whole cancel culture and this whole like, oh my God. And I don't know where all this anger is in people. Everyone's just like all of a sudden they're like, oh, let's get the pitchforks out and fucking storm the castle. You know what I mean?
Storm the castle.
So riled
storm
up.
the Capitol. Storm the castle.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
anyways, it's kind of
very
messed up.
reactive. It's
like,
crazy.
oh my God, they won't take care of her mental health, so let's trash the fuck out of them and talk the shit out of them and drive them into depression. It's like, okay, can we chill, please?
That's how you get the views, though. You gotta be a little dramatic, you know, on the TikTok.
Oh goddamn.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's happening.
Oh gosh.
So yes, speaking of mental health, shall we dive deep?
Ooh.
We shall.
Well, we had some questions, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a couple questions. I'm gonna read a few because some of them weren't questions; they were just like really nice little statements here. So one of them was not a question, but so hyped you're having Angie on. I love your mukbangs.
Angie.
Yeah, that's cute. I love your mukbangs with her. Then another comment.
That's
So these were all people like responding to the questions that we put on our Instagram.
Right.
She's the best.
Oh.
Danielle, are we competing?
Danielle, are you feeling jealous yet or what?
Jealous. Like, God, I was seeing
sorry.
these comments. I was like, should I even read
It's
these?
okay,
No,
Daniel. You also get the nicest comments.
I'm just kidding. And then another one was, this one's not as relevant. Okay. So it just says, oh, yay. Oh, no, it's not. Whoever wrote this, I don't mean your comment isn't important. It's oh yay. Should we do a poll for us to vote for our favorite cheap, lazy vegan guests?
See, they want the competition.
You guys are creating the drama.
Yes, they like the drama. One day we need to stage a fight.
Oh no.
They'll get the views, yes.
Okay. So here's some questions that we had. So the first one, which is kind of interesting here. Do you think people judge depression as laziness instead of asking what's wrong?
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna just put a disclaimer out there, that I am not.
None of us are professionals.
Qualified, you know, like a counselor or a psychologist to give any advice. We're just like talking about people. You know, our opinions and like my experience because I've dealt with a lot of different things. I feel like, but. This is a tricky one because, like, I think there's a difference between people who are depressed and they're actually, you know, they have this disorder called depression. And then there are people who kind of put themselves in this kind of a self-victimized, like this category and kind of make excuses for themselves. So it's like, let's say something happened. Let's say like, you know, someone says something mean to me and like, instead of like, oh, because someone says something mean to me, I'm sad. Therefore, I'm just going to be in my bed all day. You know, instead of kind of like owning that and being like, hey, like, why did this person say this to me? And like kind of diving deeper into this, you know, issue is more like, oh, something happened. So I'm just going to take this and like run with it and just kind of dwell on that sadness. So I think there's a difference between like, and I think you would know as a person, like if you are being lazy versus if you're feeling really depressed and sad. I don't know. That's my like take on it. And like, I think to see someone else's, I guess, the way that they react or they behave. I think if Rose was to see me be in bed all day, like, but because she knows me and she knows that I'm such a go person, like I think if she was to see me in bed all day, she would obviously ask me if I'm okay. So I think it really depends on like who you're, I guess, like
like who it is
and like what kind of relationship you have with this person. I don't think people should be, again, like quick to judge about someone else if they are in bed all day. Not saying that they're like, you know, you're just being a piece of shit, or like, you know, why are you not being productive? Because we all have those days, but I think it really depends on like who it is. Yeah,
I think that's a really good point, because I think you're right. I think there's a difference between people. I think especially with depression, I think there's a lot of people that quickly, and again, I don't want to, like, anyone that's watching and having like feelings or whatever else, I don't want to like discredit that at all. But I do feel like a lot of people are quick to jump on that. You're right. Like, you know, something bad happens to me and I'm feeling sad, I'm like all of a sudden quick to say, oh, I'm feeling depressed. You know what I mean? Or I'm depressed. Where I think there's a big difference in a sense that like actual like clinical depression is something that is like, from my understanding, and again, guys, I don't know too much about it, but it's like an actual chemical imbalance in your brain that causes you to be in a state of sadness. Like, you're just not feeling yourself. You're not, you know, there's a lot of different things. It's not that, you know, something bad happened to you one day and you feel a little sad that day. That's like very different. And I do think there's a lot of confusion or blurred lines. Even myself, I don't know where the distinction is, but I do think like, I do feel like, first of all, none of us are in a position to judge anyone. So to that person's question, like, we should never be that. You should never be quick to judge somebody, like you said, Angela. You should never jump to that, because we don't know that person's story, what's going on with them. So it could be that they have clinical depression, or it could be that they're, you know, they're just having a bad day. But we're not the ones to like judge or make that, you know, that kind of judgment.
Yeah, and I think it's like a phase too. Like, I've had a depression phase where I wasn't doing anything. Like, I was in bed all the time. Like, I was depressed, right? And so, and I think to that person's question, like, I think it's okay to ask someone, like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Even if you don't know this person very well. Like, instead of kind of categorizing them as like, oh, they're just being lazy, maybe just like be curious and maybe start asking like little questions of like, how are you feeling today? Like, you know?
Yeah. Like, I think that's important. I actually had a friend like a while ago that went through some things. And it's interesting how some people, when they, you know, are, you know, going through these kind of emotions or going through a phase of depression or, you know, whatever. And I had reached out and was like, again, asked that question, like, what's going on? Like, how are you, you know, feeling and stuff? And some people, they just want their space. Right. So I think, and that's what she said. She was like, you know what, I'm just dealing with this on my own. And I was like, I just want you to know that I'm here for you if you need me. So I think it's important to kind of like let those people know. But again, everyone deals with it as well in their own way. But I think you're right. Like, being communicative and letting them know that you're there to support them. And again, just like to that point of like judgment is like, I feel like we should never, you know, judge people too harshly, because we don't know the full story, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I know sometimes me and Rose can get a little savage on the podcast with some of the articles. Yes. Okay, but some things that we're commenting on, it's not necessarily about that person themselves. It's like what they did. Okay, like some of the stories that came up. Like, I'm sorry, putting Gorilla Glue in your fucking hair. We're gonna call you out on that.
Maybe she was going through some shit, Daniel.
But it's like, this is, again, what I'm saying, right? Like, there are people who are intentionally, they're dwelling on this sadness, and they're not doing anything to kind of get over this depression. Yes, like, we all have our phases, we have our days. Right. Yeah. But I think it's just really important to recognize it. And, like, you don't have to take action right at that moment. But, like, if you notice yourself constantly being sad and depressed, like, there's something going on, and you need to recognize that, and you need to take action.
But then maybe part of depression, just to play devil's advocate, maybe part of, I don't know what it's like to be depressed, right? But like really, like clinically depressed. Like, we're not talking about, you know, having a phase where you're feeling a bit, you know, but we're talking about like people that are actually clinically depressed. I think one part of that is that one symptom of that is that they don't feel like doing anything. And then that I think causes them to further go into, you know, a state of, so it's hard. I think it's hard to be like, and I do it too. I'm like, I don't understand why they're not like, you know, why are they, so I get why some people might look at that as like kind of laziness. Or like just like they're not taking ownership of themselves. But I do also think that there is a part that maybe we don't understand, where it's like they almost like don't, that's a symptom, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how it works.
It's for sure a symptom. Yeah, it's for sure a symptom. I feel like I'm like making this really sound bad.
No. It's
no.
Like, I'm trying to just think of people who are, it's like,
some people use it as,
Like,
here's the thing. Some people are not actually depressed. Most people are not actually depressed, but I think nowadays one of the symptoms of us talking more and more about mental health, depression, anxiety, is that now those words are thrown out like willy-nilly, right? People are just like, oh, I'm just depressed. When it's like, okay, are you actually?
It's like glamorized a little bit.
It's a little glamorized,
and use it
especially
as
on
an
TikTok.
Excuse.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by like, you know, difference between laziness and depression for me is like people use that as an excuse versus people who are actually clinically depressed.
Yeah.
And like there is a phase where you are not like unmotivated and you physically there are days where you physically just can't get out of bed and like that shouldn't be looked as, you know, laziness. But again, like who knows, like we're not in their shoes to really know what's going on, right? I think that's what Daniel was trying to say.
Yeah, and I can also see like I can kind of see though, like if you had a friend or something, and again, this is just this is a very hard topic, guys, obviously, like, and just for our listeners as well, obviously, again, we're just having a conversation about this, like we're none of us are experts here, like we're just talking about our kind of feelings and stuff, but I think one thing that is hard is when you do see somebody, especially like I'm just going to talk about my own personal experience, is I don't personally have a lot of experience with depression. Like I have, you know, I have days, I am like a roller coaster. Rose can attest to that. But
we all
you know,
are, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But actual like clinical depression, I don't have much experience with. And so that's why I could easily see myself, not easily, but like, you know, if you do see somebody that's like unmotivated and not doing things for themselves, I would think to myself, initially I'd be like, well, why is this person not doing that? Because you know, I'm also like most days, not all days, but I'm like a go getter, you know, like I'm going and doing things, and so I can't understand people like that. But then we kind of have to take it a step back. I don't know what I'm trying to say, guys, but the point is I might not understand it, but we have to remember that the brain is such a complicated thing, right? That has like a lot of chemicals and all kinds of things that are getting released and all that, which can impact and fluctuate our moods in ways that we can't even control. So I don't know what I'm trying to say by that, but like, do you know what I mean? Like there's so many things that are going on in our heads, like and this was a point I wanted to bring up actually earlier as well about mental health that I found really, really interesting, because it wasn't against mental health, but I wasn't like seeing as important as I realize now, until I had this like aha moment. It wasn't like an aha moment, but when I kind of started to link your actual physical health to your mental health. When I started to think about, like, for example, if you are really stressed and you're not taking care of yourself, you will get physically sick. Like that will happen to you. You know, if you're someone that's super stressed, like mentally, that's something that's going on in your mind, you're more prone to heart attacks. You're more prone to all of this stuff. So I think like these health conditions are just kind of reinforcing how important it is to really like be aware and take care of your mental health as well, because it's all like linked together.
All linked. Yeah.
Which was crazy for me, because I was thinking, oh, you know, like if I'm having a bad day or I'm really stressed, like it's just in my head, right? But it's not. Like it impacts your entire body, which is like that for me. I was like, whoa.
Well, think about like when you exercise, like how much better you feel after, like mentally, not just physically.
Yeah. So it surprises me. Like, this is why it shocks me that there's so much stigma behind, like, you know, let's say meditation, for an example. People are like, well, why do you do that? I'm like, well, why do you exercise? Like, it's the same thing, right? Like, it's like we're trying to take care of our mental health and we're trying to maintain it, right? Yeah. So there's just such a divide, like still a big divide between the physical health.
I think people just don't know, I think. Because, like, I remember the first time I heard about meditation. Yeah. I was like, what? I was like, that's weird. I was like, why are you doing that? That's some, like, you know, Buddhist monk shit, you know? And then later I'm like, I actually learned about it and I was like, okay, this makes sense. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's an interesting.
That's a difficult question.
Yeah. And just the whole, I don't know, the whole, not concept, but the whole thing, like how linked our whole body is. It's just, it is crazy. Like, it blows my mind. Okay.
What's the next question, Daniel? Is it juicy?
So, can we talk about the difference between feelings and emotion and intuition? So I feel like, the difference between feelings and emotions and intuition.
Okay, Angela, take the floor.
Oh, gosh.
I feel like this is less of a, I mean, it could still be in the mental health, like, kind of realm, but it's like,
It's more philosophical.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like a philosophical. Yeah, I don't.
Intuition for me is like your like gut feeling, right? And feeling is something that you feel like it's more in your head. I feel like you're feeling happiness, sadness, like excitement. Like that's just kind of, it comes with an event or a situation. But I feel like a gut feeling or the intuition, it's kind of, it's there. And let's say like you didn't have a good feeling about this one particular person, and like you have a gut feeling that this person is not a good person, and it's not necessarily it's something that he or she did. It's like it's in you, like you feel it in your gut, it's in your core. So I think that's kind of the difference, like how I would differentiate it. But again, like I'm not an expert, so like, but that's like speaking from what I would judge that and like kind of define those two difference. Gut feeling, like
it's like it's different. It's different from emotion. Like emotion is like when you're like when you're just like feeling kind of sad, feeling kind of. I mean, maybe it's linked.
I feel like it's
I think it is.
It's linked. Oh no, it's okay. It's linked. It's linked to when, but it's not the same thing. So like an emotion would be like, oh, I'm feeling nice and good. But like maybe, and what was it? Intuition.
Yeah.
Intuition is more like, oh, what? Maybe like judging how you feel, like your initial kind of how you feel upon a certain situation. Like you said, like
a first reaction, maybe.
This person, you're like, you meet someone and you're like, oh, he seems like a, you know,
like a serial killer.
That's your intuition. If something tells you that this dude's a serial killer,
it's like you can't really explain it.
It's hard to explain any of
like
these
emotions, feelings. I feel like you can define. But like this intuition that you have, it's like it's hard to define. That. It's something there, but
it is a weird concept because intuition is like, it's just like you get this feeling about something. You know what I mean? Like you get this feeling like about somebody. That's a really good example of like when you first meet somebody, or you know what I mean? Like you just like you have that intuition. And let me tell you guys, just from my own personal goddamn experience, intuition is. Trust it. Trust your intuition. Let me tell you, every single person that my intuition has been like, this person is not good for you, or not a good, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you get that feeling or whatever.
Would you say you have good intuition, Daniel?
I feel like I do, but I just don't follow my intuition. Like, I need to follow it more often.
I think you have you have a good intuition to other people. Yeah. Maybe? What do you think?
I think that's probably what it is. Yeah. Because I feel like there's been many times, like all of the like really crazy shit that's happened in my life involving individuals. When I first met those individuals, or at some point in time around those individuals, I did not have a good feeling about them. Right. You know? And it wasn't, again,
you do actually have pretty good intuition now that I think about it.
It wasn't like an emotion or anything. It was just like a gut feeling in my gut. Like I'm like, something about this person doesn't sit right with me. You know? Yeah. And, you know, there's been so many examples where I'm just like, oh my God, why did I not just...
Maybe that's the difference. It's like, it's not... Emotion is like within you. You're just like, oh, I feel like this, I feel like that. Intuition's more like, that seems wrong. Like something wrong with you.
I feel like, okay, I'm going to get a little woo-woo here. But I feel like, like I think brain sends the signal of what kind of feeling you're feeling. Like it comes from the brain, right? Like feelings and emotions. And I think the gut feeling is more like energy. Like you feel certain energy or vibe from this person when you meet them. They didn't even have to like say a word, and you already know. Like you already kind of know. And so
well, usually they do have to say something.
I feel like does the person have to say something?
I feel
usually you have to have a conversation a little bit, and then you're like, ugh, there's something wrong.
But
not
like
even though.
I'm thinking of like previous flatmate that like, maybe me and Rose both had. I had a certain feeling.
I know exactly what's going on in your head right now as we speak.
Yeah, and that person though, like honestly, Angela, if you met them again, when you first meet them, they're like, they seem charismatic, but the more they talk and the more their gestures and their face and everything, you're just like, something is
Trust
not.
The crazy eyes. Trust the crazy eyes. Okay.
It just never made me feel comfortable. And,
oh my God.
Yeah.
But you're right. God. Like, even if you have that intuition, you still end up living with all the crazies, Daniel. So
exactly. This is the thing. I need to follow
we all
my gut.
Say that.
Follow the gut feeling.
Yeah, follow your gut feeling.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. What's the next question?
These are hard questions.
That is a hard question.
They're actually really hard. I think it's just hard because, I don't know. All of this stuff, about around mental health is the reason why it's so challenging and difficult is there's no black or white answer.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I feel like even if we brought on somebody with us here that was like super, you know, they were like a therapist or whatever, they would still have difficulties answering these questions because these aren't. This is the challenge with mental health, I think, is that there is no black and white answer. You can't just say, oh, you're feeling that because of this. There could be so many different factors.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next question, and this one is really difficult.
Oh, God. I thought that one was difficult.
So what are your feelings about addictions related to mental health?
Oh, shit. This is not our field of
this one is like...
Well, you know what's actually interesting? Today not to jump into Angela's thing here, but I feel like none of us really know how to answer this. But today I was listening to a podcast, and they were interviewing a guy that wrote a book about drugs, and it's called like Drugs for Adults, or I don't know, something like this. I can't remember what it's called. But basically his thing is like, I don't know what his thing is, but he had like doctor in his name, so I'm assuming he's a smart person. And he is like very kind of for the use, not necessarily for the use of recreational drugs, but like normalizing. Normalizing the use of drugs and also decriminalizing and like legalizing everything so that it's all. And he like literally talks about how he like does heroin like just recreationally, and he's like, you know, a functioning human being, you know. And it was really interesting the way that he was talking about it, because I thought, because, you know, a lot of people will look at drugs and think like, especially something like heroin, for example, like even you and I have had this conversation where it's like, we look at drugs and we're like, that drug is bad. It's addictive. If you do it, you're going to get addicted. It's bad. And that's like kind of the end all, that is the end of discussion. But then what he was saying is, a lot of times, like most of the issues involving addiction is not necessarily the drug itself. It's many different factors, one of which is mental health, right? It's like there are usually almost always underlying factors as to why somebody gets addicted to certain drugs.
That's true.
It's that's so fun, not funny, but like, and it's not ironic. I was about to say ironic as well. I literally, I don't even know how I watched this. I think it was in my like, you know, dark YouTube hole that I went into. And there was a video about this exact thing. And it was a guy talking about substance abuse. I think it was alcohol and something else for this particular individual. And he said the same thing. He was like, and again, like, I don't know the full story, but he was just like, it was like a cartoon that was done. And he said, you know, it's funny, like I became like really like I was drinking so much. I think he was also smoking crack. I'm not 100% sure. It was like there was a couple different substances. And he was like, the thing for him is he realized like the problem with these addictions is, like you said, a lot of the time he called them like gremlins. So he had gremlins in his closet. And in the beginning, the gremlins were really, really small. But because of his inability to deal with those gremlins at the time, he used substances like alcohol and crack cocaine and this kind of stuff to kind of keep the gremlins at bay.
Right.
And then he said what happened is, as you become a habitual user of drugs and other substances, is you do mentally block out your demons, right? You like, because you're so kind of like comatose or whatever else. But then what happens is your behavior because you never deal with those demons, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and your problems get worse because you're not dealing with any of it. And then he said that was the hardest part, getting clean, is what wasn't actually getting the clean part. Like that part wasn't the challenge, although it was a part of the challenge. He said that the difficult thing is when you're clean and sober, those things that you were really small before that you weren't dealing with are now huge.
Oh God.
And now on top of those gremlins that you had, maybe at this point you've fucked up things with your family, you've done a ton of other stuff that you now have to go back and repair. So
yeah,
that's scary. God. And like, speaking from my own experience, so I feel like I had addiction to sugar. Okay, and like Rose knows about this.
Yes.
Yeah. So like my eating, it wasn't an eating disorder per se, but it was more so like, this is how my days would start. I would like during university times, like I would, and even up to like probably 2 years ago, not even, I would start my day with a medium coffee double, like Tim Hortons coffee double. So that's like medium black coffee with like 2 sugar, 2 cream, and they make it super sweet. So it's like super sweet. And then by like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock rolls in, I would go downstairs or like go to a convenience store, buy like a pack of sour Skittles or like sour gummies or like some sort of candy, eat it all in one sitting. And like that would be my like almost everyday routine, right? And so I was addicted to, I feel like I was addicted to refined sugar. And like when I felt, and I think sugar, the way that it is made, I think it is actually supposed to give you a bit of dopamine,
yes.
Yeah.
So like people actually like feel like they get that hit of happiness temporarily.
Oh, 100%.
And so that's why a lot of people are addicted to sugar nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And so if you develop this habit, let's say like for 28 days or 30 days or whatever, then like you do develop all these symptoms, like your physical, you know, there are things that go wrong with your body. And then like you're just accustomed to whenever something like
bad happens,
then you just revert back to just eating bad food for you, or like sugary
like
foods,
sugar,
because that gives you temporarily happiness, right? So I feel like that's how kind of like the mental health and the addiction kind of
it's 100% related,
right?
For sure. It's interesting that you brought up sugar, because I'm thinking like drugs and stuff, but that's also like an addiction. You know, food addiction is a real thing, you know, and
there's a lot of different addictions.
It's usually, it's always linked to like a mental health issue. Like it's almost always linked.
Another addiction, like you can think of like people that have sex addictions, porn addictions, gambling addictions. Like there's so many different things. And I you know, again, I think addictions in themselves are very complex issues, right? Obviously. But I do think that like, so many of them, I would argue all addictions go hand in hand with mental health. Like there's something going on that, you know, that person needs to deal with, or, you know, or they're getting, you know, they get into this habitual pattern of doing something.
What about crystal meth, Daniel?
Oh, God damn. Well, I don't know if that...
I really want to like talk to this man, because I find this man very fascinating, the way that he was talking. Because I'm like, I want to know his opinion on crystal. Oh, I haven't finished the podcast. Maybe he's going to talk about it. But like, because like crystal meth is supposed to be, you know, like me and Daniel always say, like, you never want to try crystal meth, because apparently everyone gets addicted on crystal meth. But then when I listen to this, I'm like, maybe it isn't actually, not that I want to try it. Like, definitely don't recommend trying crystal meth.
No.
Maybe it is still like, maybe there are people that have tried it that don't get fully addicted, and people that are more willing to try it might be already people that are going through mental health issues.
I think it's the mental state that you're in, honestly. Like, even just with like when I tried drugs for the first time, like it's like they said, oh, you will want to do it all the time, like when you go out to parties, you're gonna want to do it all the time. I'm like, no, not really. I had a great time, but I'm not addicted to it, you know. So I think it is about like your mental, but then I was addicted to sugar, you know. I was like, I can't stop eating sugary things every single day, all day.
So I think part of it's physical and part of it's mental, for sure, because the thing with those sugary candies that like Angela eats and stuff, or ate, not much anymore, a lot of it is like they actually develop it so that it's like physically addictive as well.
Of course.
So if you already have some kind of like a little bit of an addictive personality, or like you're going through something and it gives you that kind of like that hit of dopamine, then like it's gonna, you know, you're gonna want it more and more.
Exactly. But that was part of the argument too for drugs. Again, this is why this is such a complex issue, because, you know, they also have this, you know, certain drugs release that sense of dopamine, right?
Yes.
Like and they'll give you that high feeling, right? And, you know, like, I guess it goes both ways. Like, I mean, oh God, I don't know.
It's like that guy that we were talking. Did we talk about it on the podcast? There was a guy on YouTube that I actually watched that video.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, so there was a guy that like he was like a former addict. Well, he is an addict. I guess when you're an addict, you're always an addict or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And he also, like, for sure, this guy was going through a lot of mental health issues. Okay, because he has tried like every substance under the sun. So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, so this guy, he was talking about his experience on crystal meth, and I think he does his videos about like every single drug that he's tried to kind of give a more like honest picture of like, you know, the reality of actually doing these drugs, not just like fear mongering, being like, if you do crystal meth, all your teeth are gonna fall out. Like he does talk about all the bad things, but also like he talks about how it feels. Right. And I was like, oh my God, so uncomfortable listening to this, because like I can see why that kind of shit is like triggering for people, by the way, of like, you know, that have addictions and stuff. Because I'm like, holy shit. Like, so he's saying that like with crystal meth, it's like the highest amount of dopamine that you could like get, I think. It's like, that's why people get so addicted to it, because especially if you're going through something difficult, it literally apparently makes you feel like Superman. Like Superman. And then a lot of the comments in the video were basically people saying like the hardest thing about meth, like ever trying meth, is that after you do it, nothing else feels exciting or like,
yeah,
that's why people get so addicted, because once they feel it once, nothing, like imagine feeling so amazing and then feeling
never
normal.
ever feeling,
the feeling normal part is gonna feel like fucking you're depressed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, it's very complicated, but it's very linked.
Yeah.
Yes. No, 100%. I do feel I'm actually like a bit worried about that guy, because he just like disappeared, because he was like posting quite a lot on
YouTube.
YouTube. He has like a YouTube channel, and he was posting a lot, and then all of a sudden he like had one video where he's like, I relapsed and I'm not okay or something, and then he had a few more videos after that, and then he's just like dropped off the face. I don't know what's happened.
No, but good news is one of the recent, I think there was a comment under one, like I think it was the meth video or something else, where it was like a more recent comment. It was like a month ago, and he like hearted the comment. So he's still there.
A month ago.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but hopefully he's okay. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's really I don't know.
Tough.
It's a very interesting.
And it's just a vicious cycle, I think. Like once you're in that state and you develop maybe like physical symptoms from overeating sugar, and then like you're
Physical
addicted, and then like you're just
Mm-hmm.
dependent on it, and then you're like you feel shitty about yourself, and then so you just indulge. And, it's
that
just
would be hard,
it is
because
hard.
even if you're in a better place, we all go through like bad moments and we're like sad, and then that like that hit is going to make you feel better, whether it's sugar or it's and people do it in so many different ways, like self-harming.
Even us, like alcohol is like if we're having a bad day, like let's drink wine.
True. Oh my god,
that's what I'm saying. It's like certain drugs are normalized and certain drugs are not. Certain addictions are normalized, certain addictions are not. And we're not saying we're addicted to alcohol.
And I think we have like the self what do you call it, like not discipline, but we are like in a relatively good mental health state that we're able to just like, okay, let's have a wine night and like kind of just go back to our normal day-to-day living. But for people who are,
if you're going through something difficult,
really
and especially during COVID right now, everyone's staying at home, and if you're not working, it's like, and you're not doing much, it's like, I don't know, it'd be a very tough time, I don't know, it's interesting.
So last question.
Ooh.
And this one it kind of runs in line with it's kind of like addiction, but like a positive, I wouldn't say a positive addiction, but like, what are our thoughts on addiction to exercise, running, and weightlifting, for example? Do you think there's a problem where people get too obsessed and addicted to doing those things?
I think this also, people who are like this, I think they're also trying to mask something deeper that's going on within themselves. Because people who are addicted to anything, I feel like they're trying to just kind of distract themselves in a way. Like it's an obsession, right? So either they're trying to cover up something they're super insecure about, like people who are super addicted to exercising and weightlifting and all that. They're trying to just like mask their insecurity, and instead of dealing with it, I think more on an emotional level, they're doing it in more of like in an action way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. I think again, I'm not discrediting the importance of exercise, because I'm very much like, I think it's important to go for walks and go for runs and do weightlifting and everything else. And I don't know what the perfect amount is to do it, like, what the perfect balance is, but I do agree, if someone is like really over the top to the point where maybe they're making themselves sick, or they're like really it's not actually being as beneficial for them, they might be in amazing shape, but you're right, anyone that's like going crazy like that, on extreme diets and all this stuff just to like get to that wherever they want to go, I do think you're right, that's a kind of another form of addiction in a different way.
Yeah, it's real. Like, I mean, look at like bodybuilding and stuff. People like doing fitness competitions. They are not healthy. Like, I'm sorry. A lot of them, and a lot of like under, like, again, it's like a mask of like, oh, we're so healthy. We're in this wellness space, and we're doing fitness, so therefore we're healthy. But like anything to that extreme is going to be bad. And especially like in fitness, there's like a lot of issues that we don't see, especially in like those competitions. They like starve themselves for days or eat only like chicken breast and broccoli. And then like a lot of the women, almost all the women lose their period for that period of time, which is very bad for your health, because when you're underweight like that, you're going to lose your period. And then they also dehydrate themselves for like an entire day before the competition. So
to
they
look shredded, right?
Yes. And I'm sorry, like, not to be rude, but like they look unhealthy. Like, am I crazy?
No, it doesn't look. It doesn't look healthy.
And I don't understand.
And they can't say that they're actually doing that for health. They're not.
Exactly.
You know, they're doing it to either prove themselves or prove other people, or, you know, I think like back in the days, I did think about, well, not like
joining,
like competing. Like I was like, maybe I should actually start like eating chicken breast and broccoli and like actually see if I can get shredded and go down to like 5% body fat.
Oh God, I'm glad you didn't.
But that was more so not because like I'm thinking, oh my God, like I'm gonna feed my body all the nutrients. Like you don't think like that, right? Like you're thinking
exactly.
I want to see how shredded I can get and how I can look if I did this. Like you're not thinking about your health, right? Like So just people who are saying that like they're doing it for health and like, you know, that makes no sense.
But then maybe they think that doing that, they're going to become healthy, even though they're not doing it for health. They think it's healthy doing like that. I think that's the kind of like tricky thing, is like, if you don't know much about like health and nutrition and, you know, being healthy, you might look at that and think, oh, I mean, they're exercising and, you know, eating clean, quote unquote, so they must be healthy, you know?
Yeah.
I think again, like you know, from everything that, and from my own experience and everything that I've learned throughout my life, I think one of the biggest things that we need to consider or think about whenever it comes to life and everything is about balance, right? Like I think that's like, I know it's like an overused term and people are like, oh, you know, but even when it comes to exercise and weightlifting and doing all this stuff, it's like our bodies actually do need time to recover and you need to have like down days. So like if you're addicted to exercising and you're doing, you know, putting your body through all of this extra pressure, like actually you're doing more harm because you're not giving your body a proper chance to rest. You know, that's when you're going to get prone to injury. That's when you're going to, you know, you'll be like putting extra pressure on your joints. So I do think like every single thing that I mean, and I could be wrong, but this is just like my, like what I've taken from life so far is like, it is all about balance. You know, you need to have like a balanced lifestyle. I know that sounds cheesy, but
no, I'd like to add on to that. Like, it is about balance, and I think it's about your own balance. I think it's like really learning how to listen to yourself and like your thoughts, your body, like, you know, balance to you. Like working out 3 to 4 times a week for you might not be the same for someone else, right? Like, so really just like learning to, and like, why do we have an addiction to food? Why do we have an addiction to certain drugs? Like, we really need to like get real with ourselves. Okay, this is kind of embarrassing to share, but like for me, alcohol, it's like I feel more confident when I drink. So that's why I drink sometimes. Like, so that's why if I go on dates or whatever, you know, like for the first time, it's like I want to be a little bit tipsy before I go on the stage. So I can be a little bit more confident. Yeah, and like loosen up. Yeah, I think that's the term that I was looking for. But like, we have certain reasons to why we do certain things, and I think just like recognizing, you know, how we think as individuals and like what we are doing to our bodies, like for our physical health. I think that's really important. Like, and that just ties into the whole like mental health.
Well, you know, it's interesting because you know that guy Greg Doucette that we
I still watching him.
I know, me too. But anyways, he's like this big, I know Daniel doesn't watch YouTube too much, so he's like this like big fitness guy on YouTube, and he's like, he got really famous like in like a year because he kind of responds to a lot of people, and he did this. Like, he basically does videos where he's, like, yelling and he's kind of funny. And, like, we were watching him for a long time. And then now, you know, we're kind of over that phase a little bit. But one of the things that he said that I found was really interesting is that, you know, we talk about balance. We talk about, which I completely agree. I think it's very important to have, you know, whatever balance is to you.
Exactly.
But then he talks about how he's, like, nothing to the extreme. You can't, what did he say? Something like, if you do something to the extreme, it's never going to be healthy. And in order to be the best at anything, you have to do it to the extreme. So that's one thing that's very interesting, because a lot of people want to be the best, right? They want to be, you know, they want to compare themselves to this person or this person, Victoria's Secret model or, you know, actress or singer or DJ, whatever it is. And then, but then if you actually think about it, it's like, in order to get to that level, they like probably don't have any balance and they have to do, you know, all that we don't want to do. Like they have to sacrifice their social life or, you know, eating, you know, drinking wine on the weekend or eating, you know, burgers once in a while or whatever it is. So that's one thing that's, I think, important to know when you're like maybe comparing yourself to someone that maybe you shouldn't be comparing yourselves to because, you know, you think, oh, you want this body. Like everyone wants a Victoria's Secret body. But what are they doing to get that body?
Exactly. And what sacrifices are they making? And not only, you know, sacrifices like we might take for granted, like, oh, you know, even just spending time with friends and family and stuff. Maybe, you know, you have to make those sacrifices because you have to be at the gym all the time. And that isn't necessarily always good for your mental health to be making all those sacrifices, right? So they might be, you know, looking physically fit and, you know, doing all this other stuff, but then maybe their mental health they're not taking care of their mental health or, you know, whatever it may be. I think that's a really good point. And I think Angela, I love the point that you brought up about how, you know, balance is important, but how it's unique to each person. Do you know what I mean? That you have to find that balance that works for you. So I think that's a really, you know, great little takeaway for our audience here on the SaVeg Podcast is you guys need to find that balance that works for you.
How do you find that balance?
Really listen to yourself. Really know who you are and really like just own the person that you are and like really own your flaws, I think, and like stop making excuses. For me, like I had to stop making excuses to not overindulge on sugar, right? I'm like, I'm like, oh, it's fine. You know, I'm still young. I can just eat whatever I want, blah, blah, blah. But like that's, again, me making excuses. So just like really learning to recognize, really like sit with yourself and
harder
like, really
than you
recognizing.
think.
It is hard.
It's a tough thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good point. Listen to yourself. Also listen to your body as well. So like, you know, if you're doing something, it's not feeling right or whatever, maybe like just take it easy that day or whatever it may be. You need to constantly be evaluating. And I think your whatever your balance is going to change over time as well. As we get older, things are going to change, right? So it's kind of like something constantly that you're going to have to review. But I think it's good to try to like, you know, just have that in your mind, like think about that, you know? So
shall we talk a little about the quarantine fatigue and how to deal with mental health issues at this moment? I think that's an important way to end this podcast because
definitely,
you know, we're still in a fucking pandemic.
I know, a year later.
Yeah, we're all feeling the fucking fatigue.
Yeah. Even I.
All
like,
of us.
Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, whatever, working from home, great. Like, a year later, I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to be like, I miss the people. I want to go back to the office. So if I'm feeling that way, I'm sure, like, even just people that I know in my life, like, you know, a lot of people are struggling.
Yeah. So what are some quick fire tips, guys?
Oh, gosh.
I would... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Daniel.
I was going to say my takeaway tip, and I don't always do it, but I feel so much better when I do, is especially when you're working from home and you're at home all the time, is if the weather's good, go out for a walk. You know, honestly, I cannot stress to everyone how much that's helped me through this pandemic is getting outside and going for walks. Honestly, it's amazing. That's my tip to take away.
Angela?
Yeah, and like that has also really helped me too, like going for walks and like just staying connected with people like virtually and just really open up to how you're feeling, because a lot of people have been opening up and I'm like, I had no idea that you were feeling that way, right? And so just like, and I think that's like a form of release when you start talking about these, like some of the struggles that you have, like that just by you talking about it makes you feel a little bit better because you know that there's someone that's willing to listen, right? So I think that's, you know, something that I would recommend.
Oh God, is it my turn?
Oh God,
what about you, Rose?
Oh God, I mean, yeah, I think exercise is not just walking, but like just exercise in general. I think for me, I also went through like a phase where I was like, you know, holy shit, like, is this still, like, I don't know. It was just like somber mood, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, always, like, anytime I did some sort of exercise, I felt like better after. Especially something that's a little bit challenging too sometimes. I know that it's not something that we necessarily want to do. Yeah. But like the challenging workouts at the very end, I'm like, holy shit, I feel like a million times better. Whatever the challenging is, whatever challenge it is for you, right? So like if walking is a challenge, then like go walking. Or maybe you want to, you know, push yourself a little bit more. I think that helps. And talking to people. And
staying virtually connected.
Yes. Oh God. Oh God.
And seriously, like meditating. It
meditating.
Really
yes. Daniel.
I haven't done it yet. I need to try it. I've never done it. So
I keep telling you. For a year, I've been telling him to meditate.
I know. I've done a meditation session before with some work colleagues at the office, like in London, back in London.
Did you fall asleep?
No, I didn't fall asleep. I just, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. So, I mean, it's just like something I've just never done at home before. So
it's hard to,
I can
do
try.
it. Yeah. And also, sorry, one more thing, but seeking for again, if you have the financial means to like seek for a therapist and like talk to someone that is going to be unbiased and like not know your family or friends and like you feel more comfortable talking to, I think that's super important. Just like even writing things down. Sometimes I feel like we have so many thoughts that go through. I think there's like 50,000 or 40 to 50,000 thoughts that go through our head a day apparently. And so like if you're feeling like you're in a funk, sometimes it really helps to write things down to see like, what is exactly, and you can kind of analyze it and go from there. Yeah.
I would also say, I will add another thing is remember that things pass. Okay. Emotions and feelings are not forever. And one day you're going to feel like, it feels like it's going to be like, oh my God, I just feel like shit. And I'm going to feel like this forever. But like, always things pass.
Yeah.
So
100%. You'll feel really stressed one day and you're like, oh my God, this is the worst day of my life. And then the next day, maybe not quite to that extreme, but like the next day you wake up and you're like, oh, what was I even worried about yesterday? All right, cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like it
happens
fleeting,
a lot. Yeah. But
it's
same thing
fleeting.
with happy feelings. So remember that there's always a balance.
True.
You know, you might be feeling great one day, and then the next day you're like, oh God, hormones.
So true. So true.
But yes. Any other tips? Any more tips?
I mean, there's so many that you can talk about, but
yes.
I feel like this is a very wholesome podcast.
Oh God, this is the most wholesome podcast episode we've ever had.
I know, but I think it's about time. Well, not about time, but
That's
like
true.
it's good. We've had a lot of people asking. We've done a lot of news stories and things like that. A lot of them have been quite dark, you know, and so it's kind of nice to talk about mental health, especially right now. I think it is so important. To discuss that things and have our very first guest on the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
How was the experience,
so
Angela?
It was very, very wholesome, and I had a really good time as always.
I think people probably expected us to not be wholesome.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
so they're probably like,
you can watch that on a mukbang.
Yes,
future mukbang.
Future
where
mukbang.
We, share random stories and be great.
We will be unwholesome.
Exactly.
But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Angela, for coming onto our podcast as our first guest. Don't forget to check out the Why Moments podcast. You can find her podcast on your favorite podcast streaming platform.
Yep.
And you can also follow her on Instagram at
The Why Moments.
The Why Moments.
Yeah.
Is it The Why Moments?
It's The Why
Yes,
Moments.
perfect. And of course, follow us while you're at it. It's the SaVeg Podcast. And Daniel, any other plugins?
Of course, we always have
a million
plug-in
things.
session at the end.
Take at least 2 minutes.
If you are watching this video on YouTube, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already following the channel. And also, if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget to hit that follow button, and then you'll get updated whenever there's new podcast episodes. And of course, if you're not getting enough of us already, don't forget to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/SaVeg Podcast, where you get every episode a week early, ad-free, as well as an exclusive episode every single month.
Yes, Daniel.
Yes.
You guys are so good at this.
Yes. We've said it about 50 million times.
Oh God, yeah, we have to get used to it now. So
yeah, guys, love us, listen to us.
Yeah.
Love you
And
already.
also, yeah, I was gonna say also just thank you so much, guys, for your continued support. It's been amazing to see this, this podcast and our channel grow and everything. So just a huge shout out, and hopefully you guys take something away today from our little discussion with Angela on mental health.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you, guys. Right. Okay,
thanks
bye.
so much, guys.
Say bye.
Bye.